What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here, and a really cool video for you guys. So glow in the dark iPhone 6s Apple logo. So something that was only available on MacBooks, we can now get it on our actual iPhones. And I think this is absolutely really cool. Now, I'm not the first to post about this, but I thought it'd be interesting to share with you guys regardless. So it's not super bright, it's not like it doesn't stand out like crazy, but it's definitely there. It's very subtle, and that's what I like about it. I would hate for this thing to glow in the dark and blind everyone, but it looks really cool. Definitely not as bright as my MacBook, but it does come in several colors. Am I making any money off of this video? Absolutely not. I'm going to link you guys to the cheapest possible place you can buy this. No matter where you buy it, I promise all of the kits are exactly the same. They come from one place. So I'll link you guys down below. If you guys want to get it faster, I'll have an Amazon link down there. I'm making zero money off of this. Again, I just want to show you guys how to do this. But before I do that, should you? So a little review before we get into how to do it. So this is cheap aftermarket, part you're going to be putting into your iPhone. Obviously, it will void your warranty. That's a given fact. Does this work good? It does work good. For some reason, it dims sometimes. I've heard some people can get bad units, so you have to go and replace this, and it's not a fun process to replace it. But in general, it does look good. Now, this is not full capacity of the brightness. It's an iCloud locked iPhone, so I'm not able to get the brightness up all the way. But even as it is at about 60%, it still looks pretty good. It's not obnoxious. It's a very elegant mod. It's just not easy to do. I just want you guys to know that and be prepared. If you don't have patience, you don't have time to do this tutorial. It just will not work out for you. It's something I've actually always wanted in an iPhone. I really hope future iPhones come with this feature because, wow, I'm really impressed. It looks really cool. I'm just a little worried about the longevity of the device. If you're wondering what's the worst part about doing this, probably the fact that you can break your device taking it apart if you're not very skilled. But this was my first time taking apart an iPhone 6s and I did it just fine. Now, does this drain more battery life? Yes, but not by much because it's such a small LED. It shouldn't really be a problem. The whole set for me probably costs about $10 to $12 depending on how fast you want to get it. I'll have a link down below for different prices and different speeds. But in general, would I recommend it? No, I would personally not do this, but it does look cool if you're a brave soul. And I just want you guys to know this video guide is only for the 6S, and of course this will void your warranty. So unless you're certain you want to do this, you want to void your warranty, I would say don't do it. I mean, it's fun, it's cool, but at the risk of losing a lot of money, I certainly wouldn't do that. I bought an iPhone iCloud locked, so just so I wouldn't have to worry about it. But anyways, grab a credit card just in case, but you will have a basic tool set with you. First off, remove the 2 bolts underneath the iPhone. Very simple, set those aside. Have a good place to put the bolts. They get lost very easily. I actually lost mine, took so long to find it. But get these guys out on the bottom, and let's move on with the suction cup. So while simultaneously pulling up with the suction cup, use a little pry tool to get in between the glass display and the shell of the iPhone. Go all around the iPhone, and there will be a little seal that you will break. So that is the waterproofing seal. So your iPhone may not be as water resistant after this, after you take it apart. And in general, guys, for the brave souls that do want to attempt this, be very careful. It's very easy to break something inside, so you have to be very patient. If you're not patient, don't attempt this. But just know that this was my first time taking a 6S apart, and I managed just fine. Also, I'm not liable if you break it. I don't care if you buy this or not. If you do this, I'm just showing you how to do it. So first off, there'll be a cable attaching the Touch ID to the logic board. Make sure to disconnect that. Don't just yank the screen up, otherwise you'll tear it. Now, there will be a bunch of sticky stuff on the sides. You want to get rid of that. But my phone came with an aftermarket screen, so I didn't even have a Touch ID cable, in case you were wondering why there's no cable on mine. But anyways, go ahead and pull the screen slightly out. Be very gentle here because there are ribbon cables up top. You don't have to remove the display. I did this entire thing without removing it, but if you want to remove it, that plate on the top right with 5 screws, just remove those and you can get rid of the display. And next up, unscrew the 2 bolts holding the plate of the battery connector. So unclip that battery connector. And next is the task of removing the battery. This is the hardest one, guys. This is the worst. So you want to go ahead and remove the sticky tape that's holding the battery, and you got to stretch it out. So away from the battery, keep it low. And if you're lucky, you can slowly remove it, and the battery will just come out easily. If you're like me, every single time you take a phone apart, you will not have that luck, and you'll have to use a credit card. So gently going underneath the battery, just over and over. You can eventually remove the battery using a credit card if you failed the other ways. Just be very careful not to puncture the battery. Obviously, that's not good. You can cause a fire. It's not good for your health. So You know, batteries are cheap for the 6S in case you do damage it, but try not to. So this does take a little while, but eventually you can get that battery out. Mine looked pretty bad after removing it, so you know, be careful with this. Anyways, out comes the battery, and I promise that is the hardest part of this whole tutorial. Next, there are 2 stickers holding the Apple logo cut out in place. So remove them, set them aside. We will be using this to secure the glowing one in just a little bit. So next, using a little flathead screwdriver included in your kit, just go ahead and pry it underneath the Apple logo, go all the way around. Try not to deform it too much, just in case you want to put it back eventually. So you know, we're gonna go ahead and get this guy out of here. It's very simple. It's just held in by a little bit of glue. Out it comes, and there it is. So next you want to pull out the glowing Apple logo, and it is a little flimsy, so be careful when handling it, but go ahead and peel off the plastic on top of it. It's going to be a lot harder once it's installed. Anyways, go ahead and slide it in. It takes a little bit of fiddling to get it to click, but eventually it'll fit perfectly inside the cutout, and we can go ahead and apply that tape. So that tape we saved, put it on the bottom and the top. Make sure it's secured. It won't go anywhere because the battery will sit on top of it, but you just want to make sure it's secured with that tape. Easy stuff. All right, so pay very close attention with this part. This is easy part, it's done. So let's get into the little bit more difficult stuff. So I want to go ahead and remove the sticker on top of the connections. This is on top of the display. This is where we're going to be taking the power from with the logo. So it doesn't power itself, it uses the power from the LCD. So it does take a little bit more battery life, but it's such a small LED, really it's not going to be that noticeable. So we want to nestle the connector part in the top left of the metal bracket on the display. So it'll look just like that when it sits. It'll sit on top of the connections perfectly. And you know, it takes a little bit to get it in there, but once that's done, we want to go ahead and take the 2 little foam pieces, stack them on top of each other, and we're going to apply them on top of that connector just because it needs a little pressure to activate, to sit on those connections properly. So once you have them stacked, go ahead and apply them on top of that connection, the orange part on that cable. Make sure they sit properly and nice, and then we're going to go ahead and take the other pieces of tape that are included in the little, you know, set. Take one of the pieces and go ahead and put it directly over that connector and make sure it sits nice and tight. Apply it, you know, smoothen it out. And then once that's sitting there, we're going to take the other piece and raise it slightly higher. Make sure it's still overlapping with the old piece of tape so it can get some grip. Make sure it looks like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and test it out. Go ahead and put the battery back in, plug it in, apply some pressure to check if the logo is working. If not, you want to fiddle around, make sure the connection is sitting properly. You know, mine is working fine, so I'm confident now in closing the iPhone back up. And I do have these stickers. So if you don't have battery stickers, you can use double-sided tape, but I would recommend using these because they're very thin. It won't raise the screen at all when trying to close it. So apply them to the back of the battery. You know, these are very cheap, like a few bucks on eBay. And we're going to go ahead and seat the battery back in and plug it in. Now this whole process is pretty daunting. It's not the easiest, but I'm a beginner to taking phones apart and I was able to do it. It's all about having the tools which are included and having the patience. If you're an impatient person, this becomes so much more difficult. So we're going to go ahead and apply the battery in. There will be a little piece of the connection with a fuse. You want to nestle it right between the headphone jack and the port. And then we're going to go ahead and put the connector back on for the battery, screw it in, and the screws, make sure they're in the correct places. The shorter one goes on the right. Anyways, so again, test if the light is working before we close the display back up. So I was able to test that everything was working, and you have to apply some pressure. So when we close the display, the pressure will be there. But before we do that, you want to apply some pressure to test if the LED is working. Mine is working, so I'm going to go ahead and close the display back up, and we are ready to roll. So the only thing remaining is that we go ahead and put the 2 bottom screws, the T2s, back in the device, screw it in, and you are all set to go. So considering you followed all of the directions, you should have had no issues. Now, a couple things I noticed about this LED, basically like a mini review. So after putting it in, it works intermittently. Sometimes it will turn on in work, which is about 80% of the time. Sometimes it just goes out and dims for no reason. It doesn't turn on for a while. You know, it's intermittent, and it's not because of the connection. The connection is solid. I tested that part. It's just, I really don't know. Maybe it's the OS of the iPhone. It doesn't understand why there's more voltage being drawn, more current. So I really don't know. You know, I'm not an electrical engineer, but it does look good. There are many colors you can get it in. And if you're wondering why it looks so dim, it's because this is an iCloud locked iPhone. I'm not able to get the screen brightness all the way up. It's about 50 to 60% right now. And it still looks pretty good, especially in darker, more low light environments. So I do hope this tutorial helped you guys. You know, again, I'm not responsible if you mess your iPhone up, but in the end, Really cool looking mod. Hope you guys enjoy it. Have a great day. Peace.